Well, we just got word that the Russians tried to hack Burisma and maybe did. Now, what if they start leaking information, some true, and then what if some of it's made up? This is very strange. First of all, why would your concern be? It's so funny how removed this is. Not that they hack the DNC, not that they hack the Pentagon, that they hack a Ukrainian national gas company. This is Adam Schiff's big concern, that they could have information from a Ukrainian natural gas company that could be leaked. And it could be lies about it. This is already getting ahead of this. It's not even real what they're saying. What a fucking fascinating thing. Like, doesn't it seem strange that would be your concern? This would even come up in your speech about impeachment? Very weird. What did you think of that?
Well, first is the fact that he's still talking about Russia collusion. Firstly, if we look back at the Russia collusion, it was that true information that they put out. It was true information. Like that was the
hold on.
old
Let me even just stop you there. It's not even confirmed that Russia had anything to do with the WikiLeaks hack. This is just something that's asserted by the
Well, that's what I was going to say
agencies.
next, is you're still going with the idea of Russia collusion. We spent 2 years with that nonsense, and then it turned out it didn't exist. And now you're going, hey, more true information might arrive here. If it's true information and it happens to expose politicians for being corrupt, there is no part of a constitutional argument or exposing or removing the flaws of Washington that should take issue with us exposing extreme corruption.
Yes.
And so this sounds to me when he goes, hey, the worst threat here is that Burisma hacked us and they might give back the true information. Well, great, let's get that information. That's not a threat.
Yeah.
The fact that Trump is going to support true information coming to the American public that shows some of the horrible things that politicians are doing in Washington. But also, I mean, we've been saying from the beginning, fucking Schiff, dude. He's clearly working with the CIA. That was the initial whistleblower. He claimed like he never met with the guy. And whatever, there's teams in Washington. You're clearly on the team of Democratic National Committee and who they're looking to try and get elected, which is clearly Biden, that you have fucking Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren stuck right now dealing with impeachment hearings. Like, you can look at it like a chessboard. It's pretty clear what's going on here. You want those guys, like, they seem to want Biden to win. They seem to want these people to be preoccupied, and they seem to not want the information about whatever the fuck Obama and Biden did to try and get other governments to create this false narrative of Russia collusion against Trump to come to light. And now what you're basically saying is, if this information that was hacked by the Russians about Burisma comes out, it's going to make us all look really, really bad. And so we got to get rid of Trump before there's a possibility of us looking really, really bad.
Right. Now, of course, the thing that's really kind of fascinating about all of this is, number one, your big concern is that Russia potentially hacked a Ukrainian natural gas company.
Yeah, that shouldn't affect us.
Now, why would there be anything there that could be used as damaging? What is it that you're so worried about? Now, that being said, if Russia did hack this and they're going to release the information, Trump being impeached doesn't stop the Russian government from releasing any of this information. Are you just really concerned? So here's the thing, right? Now, I said this from the very beginning of the impeachment. I thought it was very strange that the Democrats moved forward with impeachment on this. As I said on one of the last episodes, there was a Washington Post article about the case for impeachment the day Donald Trump was inaugurated. There were Hillary Clinton campaign members who were talking about impeaching Donald Trump before he was elected. They were saying, if Donald Trump wins, he'll be impeached. Like, this has been, and of course, there's been talks from Democratic representatives the entire Trump presidency about impeaching him. And I said from the very beginning, it seemed strange that they went with this. Like, even if after the Mueller report they had said he left the door open for obstruction, we're impeaching him for that. At least there was like Mueller saying he couldn't determine whether there was obstruction, and he laid out the 10 episodes, and technically obstruction is a crime. They could have gone after him for like the emolument stuff or something like that. It just seemed like there was a stronger case there. Not that it was good, but stronger than this, where you actually have to tell Joe Sixpack in America that we need to, for the first time in American history, impeach and remove a president because he withheld military aid in order to get something that he never got and then relinquished the aid, and basically, he was trying to strong arm this guy even though the guy says he wasn't trying to strong arm him, and it all seems strange. But start to put this together a little bit here, okay? Donald Trump, this, by the way, this company, Burisma, is run by a Ukrainian oligarch. This is a company that operates on government licenses to produce natural gas. So in other words, they have a right to do it given by the government. This new leader gets elected in the Ukraine, and he runs on an anti-corruption platform. He's like, Ukraine is known as one of the most corrupt countries, okay? Now, he's coming in saying, I'm going to clean up this corruption. Donald Trump is trying to make a deal with him, and no doubt in my mind, was at least attempting at points to leverage the foreign aid to make deals with him. But that in itself is not a scandal. That's how foreign aid works. We don't just give countries foreign aid. And who would support that? I mean, I'm against all the foreign aid to begin with, but who would support that? Like, you wouldn't ever have strings attached in that. Anyway, so Donald Trump is now talking to the leader, being like, hey, let's really go after fucking corruption. Let's go after corruption. By the way, I think the Bidens are involved in this corruption. That's what they're really trying to get him on. But a lot of it was like, let's go on the corruption of the 2016 interference in our election. Let's get on the corrupt. Let's really go after this. And this is where the Democrats choose to move to impeachment. And now the fucking Democrats are out there. You have Schiff, one of the most prominent Democrats in the House of Representatives, out there saying the big fear is that they could have hacked this Ukrainian oligarch's natural gas company and what information they may have. Now, he claims some of it could be made up, but he even said some could be true. Oof. What the hell is going on here? Because this was a risky move by the Democrats. I mean, even right now, they're in a position where they're really in a difficult fucking position here. I mean, even with the election stuff, right? So you're having this Senate hearing. You got 3 candidates who basically have a shot of winning this thing, okay? It's Biden, Bernie Sanders, and Elizabeth Warren. Elizabeth Warren's been fading in the polls, so not even so much her. But there's a Senate hearing which is pulling 2 of your Democrats off the campaign trail, pulling Bernie and Elizabeth Warren. We speculated about whether this could be to sabotage Bernie. But then they're pushing for these fucking witnesses, and they are really caught in a tough spot here where they want to get all these. What the Democrats want, more or less, and it's been pretty clear in the witnesses that they've said that they want to subpoena.
They just want to make a show of Trump being bad.
Well, yes, that's for sure. That's the whole thing. But more specifically than that, what they want is and I've noticed this because they're not pushing. You don't hear a lot of people pushing for Rudy Giuliani to be subpoenaed. You hear people pushing for John Bolton and Mike Pompeo and other top levels of Trump's cabinet. What they're hoping is that people will come and invoke executive privilege. And then they can say the executive branch is obstructing the impeachment proceedings. And they can just make it murky. Yeah, we didn't really get him, but he was obstructing. And that's why the whole thing's fucking smells like corruption to me. That's what they're looking for. They've got a real problem, is that the Republicans seem to actually be standing their ground on, if you're going to subpoena witnesses, then we get to 2, and our witness number 1 is Hunter Biden. So now the Democrats are in a position where they've pulled 2 of their top 3 presidential candidates off the campaign trail to deal with this fucking Senate trial. And the other one, his corrupt fucking drug addict, fucking knocking up chicks and denying the kids his when a DNA test proves it is, son, in to fucking testify before Congress. So they're in a fucking tough place. And also you realize that an impeachment is kind of like swatting at a bee. And if you don't get the job done, it can backfire on you a lot. So why would they go for all of this with such an uncompelling central crime? You know, basically the central crime is that he thought about withholding military aid for personal gain, but never actually did it. That's the allegation. And you start to wonder, ooh, how deep does this corruption in Ukraine go? What is it? Who could be exposed? How powerful are the fucking people? You know? Obviously, the Obama administration supported a coup in Ukraine. They sided with actual neo-Nazis there. So what exactly is going on in this outrageously corrupt country where the Democratic Party was so invested in there? What's going on? There's a lot. I know people have shown me there's some presentations online. You know, I don't know exactly how much of everything is true and what isn't, but there's some real shady business going on in Ukraine. And Adam Schiff, I mean, maybe you got to read between the lines just a little bit. Maybe you got to look at what's implied just a little bit, not even that much. He basically just told you, this is our concern. This is our concern.
As if it's a real threat to our democracy. It's not. It's a threat to you and your other fucking jabronis.
Well, that's right. And it's interesting, in the same way when Hillary Clinton said nobody likes Bernie Sanders, and then she said in the next sentence, nobody wants to work with him, nobody in the Senate, ever, like signed any bills with him. It's like, oh. So this is Hillary Clinton's mindset. When she says nobody likes Bernie Sanders, she's not saying the most popular senator in the country, the guy who's drawing tens of thousands of people to his speaking events, the guy who got 100,000 people to donate money to him in one day. Obviously, you can't say nobody likes that guy. Joe Rogan likes him. But what does she mean? She means none of us. And that's nobody to her. And in the same sense, when Adam Schiff says, the national interest, whose interest are you really talking about? The national interest? I mean, in these guys' fucking whacked out perspectives, the national interest is to keep the order going, the current order. When he says it's not in the national interest, in the same sense, they mean, if they show us that the DNC was rigging the primary for Hillary Clinton, that's not in the national interest. I don't know. I mean, I think that's in the national interest, but it's not in the interest of the ruling elite. It's not in their fucking interest, that's for sure. So there's a really interesting take here. Now, of course, anybody who, look, if you did believe in journalism, which I do, if you believed in democracy, which I don't, but even if you did, isn't it reasonable to say that democracy kind of relies on a relatively well-informed voter? I mean, democracy, if the voters are all misled, then democracy doesn't work that well. And that's even kind of what Adam Schiff seems to be acknowledging here. But that being said, why is it? Nobody's ever been able to even pretend to take on this argument. But if that's the case, then why is it that anything WikiLeaks did was bad? There still to this day, and this is something that's just really important for people to remember, there has been no evidence that has actually demonstrated that WikiLeaks had a connection to Russia. There's also been no evidence that demonstrates a single thing that WikiLeaks released was false. Those are two really important things to keep in mind. When WikiLeaks revealed that CNN's Donna Brazile was giving Hillary Clinton the questions before the debates, when they revealed that the DNC was doing everything they could to smear Bernie Sanders, all of this stuff was real. Now, why would it not be? Why would any journalist not want that information? And why would anybody who claims that they're all for democracy not want the voters to have this information? So what is it about Burisma that they're so scared about the voters having this information? I wonder. I wonder what it is. I'll tell you this much, Adam Schiff seems pretty fucking worried about it.